cavity and the larynx. And this is the passage for both air as well as the food. And it divided into three parts: epipharynx, mesopharynx, and hypopharynx. Epipharynx is also called nasopharynx. Mesopharynx is also called oropharynx. Hypopharynx is called laryngopharynx. As we have studied the head and neck, if we cut the head and neck in the sagittal plane, what picture we got? So here the cranial cavity is cut, the roof of the nasal cavity with the cribriform plate, lesser wing of sphenoid with anterior clinoid process, and here is the pituitary fossa, the posterior clinoid process, the clivius, and clivius lead to the foramen magnum, and below the pituitary fossa there is the body of the sphenoid bone, below which lies the sphenoidal air sinus. So this is the sagittal section of the cranial as well as the neck. And this sphenoidal air sinus is the lateral wall of nasal cavity with superior, middle, and inferior concha. The sphenoidal air sinus they opens into sphenoethmoidal recess. And there is a hard palate. Behind the hard palate there is a palatine aponeurosis, to which the uvula of the soft palate is hanging. So this is the hard palate. We can show the roof of the oral cavity. This is the, here is the mandible in cut section with superior and the inferior genial tubercles. And here lies in the floor of the oral cavity the tongue. So the posterior most part is the epiglottis. Below here lies the body of the thigh bone, lesser cornu, and the greater cornu. And below the hide bone there is the Adam's apple, that is the larynx, with the cricoid cartilage with the oblique line, below cricoid and above is the thyroid cartilage, and below this is the trachea with tracheal rings here. This membrane, thyroid membrane, which is always pierced by three structures: one nerve, one artery, one vein. So this structure we have already done. So anteriorly the face along with the three cavities: nasal cavity, oral cavity, and laryngeal cavity. This is the base of the norma basalis, that is the base of the skull. This is the sphenoid bone, this is the occipital bone, and here lies the foramen magnum. Just in front of the foramen magnum there is a tubercle small here. This is called the pharyngeal tubercle. Pharyngeal tubercle is there in the midline, just in front of the foramen magnum on the norma basalis. Below the foramen magnum there is the atlanto-occipital joint formed by the atlas, the C1 vertebra, then odontoid or the dens of the C2, and there is a cervical lordotic angle, C2, then C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and T1 vertebra. So posteriorly there is a neck with the cervical vertebra. Anterior aspect of these cervical vertebra, they are having the prevertebral muscles and paravertebral muscles. And these prevertebral and paravertebral muscles, they are covered by prevertebral fascia, which is derived from the investing layer of the deep fascia we know. Then we also know the lower border of the cricoid cartilage is the start of the windpipe as well as the food pipe. So trachea starts from the lower border of the cricoid cartilage, which lies at the level of C6 vertebra, and just behind the lower border, here lies the food pipe, that is the esophagus, with outer longitudinal and inner circular smooth muscles. So this is the esophagus, trachea and esophagus. And this is the tracheo-esophageal groove. And what it contains? Recurrent laryngeal nerve, inferior laryngeal artery, and inferior laryngeal vein. So this much we already know because we have done the oral and the cavity and other cavities. So this is the mandible, superior border of the body, this is the mylohyoid line on the medial surface, they are the three molar tooth, and this is the mandible. The posterior part seen from the cut of the mandible is this. So this is the mandible on the left side. And here lies the pterygoid plates, medial pterygoid plate with pterygoid hamulus. So this much we have done. So posteriorly there is a vertebra and the prevertebral muscles with the fascia, and anterior three cavity, nasal cavity, oral cavity, and pelvic. So three FARs are there. So this is the behind the nasal cavity, nasopharynx. Behind the oral cavity, oropharynx. Behind the larynx is the, so pharynx is divided into three parts. Behind the three cavities and in front of prevertebral fascia. Now the nasopharynx start from extent. What are the extent of these cavities? Nasopharynx start from the base of the skull, that is the basic occiput or the clivus, inferior surface, and where it ends? Tip of the uvula. So this much is the nasopharynx, and it is lined internally by ciliated columnar epithelium. Ciliated columnar epithelium. Then oropharynx start from the tip of the uvula to the tip of the epiglottis. This is the oropharynx. Nasopharynx opens into oropharynx through this isthmus, or the opening. This is called the nasopharyngeal isthmus. The oral cavity opens into the oropharynx by the oral isthmus. The oral isthmus, where the buccal cavity ends and the oropharynx start, is called the isthmus of the oral cavity. So isthmus of the oral cavity is bounded superiorly by the soft palate and laterally by the palatoglossal muscle and the arc, and inferiorly by the tongue, the dorsal surface of the tongue. So it forms the end of the oral cavity and start of the oropharynx. So that is the extent we should know. The laryngopharynx start from the tip of the epiglottis, and where it ends? Lower border of the cricoid cartilage. Lower border of the cricoid cartilage. So this is how we divide the extent of the three parts of the pharynx. Now it is a muscular tube, so there are 6 muscles of the pharynx. Out of the 6, 3 are circular or constrictor muscles, and 3 are longitudinal or vertical muscles. So this is how we form the muscles of the pharynx. Three circular muscles. They are called superior constrictor, middle constrictor, and inferior constrictor. Constrictor means They are circular. So whenever a circular muscle will contract, what will happen? Constriction, narrowing will be there. And all these muscles, 6 muscles, they are skeletal muscles. They are involuntary muscles, the voluntary muscles. And they act or they contract reflexly by the touch of the food. So that is how the deglutition occurs in this pharynx part. And 3 are the longitudinal muscles. Names of these muscles, they are stylopharyngeus, then salpingopharyngeus, and then palatopharyngeus. So they are vertical muscles or the longitudinal muscles. So they act against the gravity and they pull the pharynx upward, so that with the food there is a pressure on the pharynx, it may gravitate down. So these 3 muscles, they give the outside support to the pharyngeal tube. So now these 3 muscles, these 3 constrictor muscles, how they act and how they are incorporated in the formation of the irregular muscular tube to constitute what is called the pharynx. So it can be easily identified or exemplified with the help of the 3 flower pots. So you take 3 flower pots and put them concentrically one in the another. So these 3 flower pots, actually they represent 3 constrictor muscles: superior, middle and inferior constrictor muscle. Now we break these 3 flower pots, earthen one, they are earthen pots, like this. Broken longitudinally in a vertical line. Now these lines, they represent the origin of the 3 muscles: superior constrictor, middle constrictor and inferior constrictor. Superiorly there is a pharyngeal tubercle, dorsally or posteriorly below the foramen magnum, and on either side there are styloid processes. So styloid process give us vertical muscle that is called stylopharyngeus. So this muscle stylopharyngeus comes and it passes between the gap between the superior and the middle constrictor. It takes origin from the medial surface of the styloid process and goes inside the gap between the superior. Remember, stylopharyngeus is always accompanied by 9th nerve, glossopharyngeal. So glossopharyngeal nerve also goes along with the stylopharyngeus muscle inside the pharynx. Then salpingopharyngeus. Salpingo means tube. Which tube? Eustachian tube. Now the Eustachian tube, it opens into the nasopharynx. 1.25 centimeter behind the posterior end of the inferior concha, which is a complete bone. 1.2 centimeter behind the posterior end of the inferior concha in the lateral wall of nasopharynx is the opening of Eustachian tube, and we know this Eustachian tube opens into middle ear and it equalizes the ear lateral and medial to the tympanic membrane, and prevention is there for the rupture. So that is the mechanism, it opens into nasopharynx. So in the anatomy, tube is called salpingo. So its name is salpingopharyngeus muscle. So it takes origin from the posterior and lateral part, and this muscle is vertically coming down and it merges with the stylopharyngeus muscle. Both meet together. It also comes at the same level. Third muscle is palatopharyngeus. Name suggestive, palato means it takes origin from the palatine aponeurosis. Palatine aponeurosis is formed by the tensor palati muscle of the soft palate, and this is the palatine aponeurosis. So from here the muscle take origin is the palatopharyngeus. It has got two type of the fibers: ascending, descending, and horizontal. So horizontal fibers, they go horizontally posteriorly and touches the posterior wall of the pharynx, and they go around it. Right meet with the left like a sling from the palatine aponeurosis. And mucous membrane, which is inner lining the whole of the pharynx, is raised over the medial border of these muscles. So this muscle is U-shaped like this. And the mucous membrane which is covering it is raised a little bit if we see inside the pharynx, and a ridge is created which is called the Passavant's ridge. It is called the Passavant's. Ridge is created. The descending fibers, they descend downward with the this palato and the stylopharyngeus muscle, and these muscles, they are inserted over the posterior border of the lamina of the thyroid cartilage. Posterior border of the lamina of the thyroid cartilage is the insertion of stylopharyngeus, palatopharyngeus, as well as salpingopharyngeus. All get together to form the conjoint tendon, co-joint, and all are in the. It means the larynx is also indirectly attached to the styloid process, the palate, palatine aponeurosis, and eustachian tube. So that is the connection. Now the superior and the middle constrictor and how they do. So their origin of the, we will take one by one. Superior constrictor, it has got 5-point origin. You have to remember origin of superior. So this line represents the origin of the superior constrictor. Number 1, it takes origin from the posterior border of the lower part of the posterior border of the medial pterygoid plate, from here. Number 1. Number 2, from pterygoid hamulus. Pterygoid hamulus is a hammer-like structure at the lower border of the posterior border of medial pterygoid plate. And from here, something goes downward to the mandible, which we have also done in the buccinator muscle origin. This is called pterygomandibular raphe. It is a thick, tendinous, cord-like structure. Anterior part of this will give the origin of buccinator muscle we have done. The posterior part of the pterygomandibular raphe gives the origin of superior constrictor fibers. So fibers from here, medial pterygoid, then the hamulus, and from the pterygomandibular raphe. Then a few fibers, they also take origin from, number 4, from posterior end of the mylohyoid line, because it has reached the body of the mylohyoid, mandible, from the posterior part of the mylohyoid line. Number 5th origin, from the base of the tongue also. So this 5 point of the origin is the superior constrictor, and it is a fan-shaped muscle. So uppermost fibers, they get inserted on pharyngeal tubercle. Pharyngeal tubercle. The lowermost fibers we take in from the base of the tongue. They march downward at the level of vocal cords. It ends. So this is how the fan is formed. So how we show in the flower pot? So 5-point origin is there, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 point. So the muscle fiber from the origin, they go laterally, from the lateral they go posteriorly. And the uppermost fibers of the superior constrictor, they get the access to insert on pharyngeal tubercle. Both the right and left side meet here. Uppermost fibers only. But subsequent lower fibers, they shake hand with each other or they decussate posteriorly. Right meet with the left. So this is how the superior constrictor muscle, they go posteriorly. And they meet in the midline dorsally, and from the pharyngeal tubercle down, all the subsequent 3 constrictor muscle, they are ultimately go to the continuous with the esophagus. With the esophagus. And outside all these muscles, they are covered by buccopharyngeal fascia. Buccopharyngeal fascia is the covering of these all muscles. So this is how the fan-shaped muscle is bare. So right meet with the left posteriorly, and in the midline dorsally, due to decussation of the right and left muscle fibers, a median raphe is created, which is called, from pharyngeal tubercle down to the up to the esophagus, is the median, is called median pharyngeal raphe. It's called median pharyngeal raphe. So this median pharyngeal raphe can be exemplified with the help of P. Papilionati in the botany. If you open the legume of the pea, where the pea they are attached, what is that called? Median raphe. That is called median raphe because both meet there, and peas are studded there. Same is here. So right and left constrictor muscle, they decussate posteriorly to create a raphe, that is called the median pharyngeal raphe. All superior, middle and inferior constrictor, they constitute the raphe. So this is how we do the superior constrictor muscle. Now there is a gap is left between the base of the skull and superior border of the superior constrictor muscle. Now air, when it enters the nose, it humidifies and then it enters into the behind the epiglottis, and then it goes into the laryngeal inlet and the trachea. The same air can also enter into our esophagus. So this air may leak from here. So this gap has to be closed, and it is very much closed by a fascia which is attached, number 1, to the base of the skull, number 2, the posterior upper border of the medial pterygoid plate, inferior to the upper border of the superior constrictor, and posterior to the pharyngeal tubercle. And this is called the pharyngobasilar fascia. Pharyngo means pharynx, basilar means base of the skull. So that is how the name is created, pharyngobasilar fascia. And this fascia also goes a little bit down on the outer surface of the, or inner surface sometime, of the superior constrictor muscle, and it merges with the buccopharyngeal fascia, and it strengthens the upper part of the pharyngeal tube. So both unite together and they give the strength and prevent from the anti-gravity action. So that is the superior constrictor. Then comes the middle constrictor. So middle constrictor muscle also, this is the point of origin. So middle constrictor muscle, it takes origin from the stylohyoid ligament, but not whole of the stylohyoid, only the lower part of the stylohyoid ligament. Then number 2 from the lesser cornu also. Number 3 from greater cornu also. So 3-point origin of the middle constrictor, the uppermost fibers of middle constrictor muscle, they rise up to the pharyngeal tubercle. So it is also a fan-shaped muscle. This is the inferior superior constrictor muscles, downward fibers. They are the upward fibers. So they reach the subsequent fibers of the middle constrictor, they are inserted on median pharyngeal raphe. Then the lowermost fibers of the pharyngeal, this middle constrictor, they also cannot go below the vocal cord level. So they join with the lowermost fibers of superior constrictor, and they are inserted on the median pharyngeal raphe. So this is how middle constrictor is muscle. Again, there is a gap between this lower border of the superior constrictor and upper border of middle constrictor. This, and through this gap, what we pass, we have seen the glossopharyngeal nerve will pass, and it has to supply the posterior 1/3 of tongue, anterior 2/3 chorda tympani, posterior 1/3 is this. Glossopharyngeal is both sensory and motor to the posterior 1/3. So this is how the glossopharyngeal is reaching its destination, through a gap between superior and the middle constrictor, along with the stylopharyngeus muscle also. Then comes the inferior constrictor. So inferior constrictor muscle has got 2 parts, thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. The thyropharyngeus muscle, it takes origin from the oblique line on the thyroid lamina. This is the oblique line we have seen. So fibers, upper fibers, they are almost obliquely running, overlapping middle constrictor, inserted on the median pharyngeal raphe, and the subsequent fibers, they also inserted on the median raphe. So this is the thyropharyngeus part of the inferior constrictor. Thyropharyngeus. Then comes the cricopharyngeus part. So cricopharyngeus, name suggests, it takes origin from the anterior arc of the cricoid cartilage, plus the arc on the muscle, cricothyroid muscle. So we have done tomorrow the muscle, the cricothyroid. So it is covered by a fascia who has got the arc also. So this muscle, the cricopharyngeus, is almost having the horizontal muscles, fibers, and they go around like palatopharyngeus. They also meet with their fellow on the other side. So they are also U-shaped, and they merge with the inner circular muscles of the esophagus. Because whole of the GIT you will read in next part. We are starting the abdomen, outer longitudinal and inner circular mouth. So whole of the GIT has got this arrangement. So the start point is here. So cricopharyngeus is also circular. So it gets continuous with the inner circular muscles of the esophagus at the lower border of the cricoid cartilage. So here is the muscular incoordination. The muscles above the thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus is different. It is circular, it is fan shaped. Secondly, the incoordination is because of the nerve supply. The thyropharyngeus part of the inferior constrictor is supplied by pharyngeal plexus, but the cricopharyngeus part is supplied, which this muscle takes origin from the lower posterior border of the medial pterygoid plate. Number one, medial pterygoid plate, posterior border, lower part. Then number two, hammer-like pterygoid hamulus. This is the pterygoid hamulus. And we know what is attached to pterygoid hamulus? Pterygomandibular raphe. Superiorly attached to the pterygoid hamulus and inferiorly it is attached to the mandibular, means mandible. Which part of the mandible? Area behind the last molar tooth. So it is a musculo-tendinous structure that is called the pterygomandibular raphe. We have already done it during the origin of buccinator muscle. So buccinator muscle takes origin from the anterior part and the superior constrictor muscle is taking origin from its posterior part. Then the lower part here from pterygoid hamulus. So this is the origin of the superior constrictor. Third origin, pterygomandibular raphe. Fourth origin is from the posterior part of the mylohyoid line. Mylohyoid line is posterior end because it lies on the body. So posterior part of mylohyoid line also gives the superior constrictor muscle. Third, it takes origin from the base of the tongue. From base of the tongue, the fibers are coming from the posterior 1/3 of the tongue. So 5-point origin you have to remember, superior constrictor. And this muscle is fan shape. The uppermost fibers, they will be inserted on the pharyngeal tubercle. So it has got a bony insertion. And from the pharyngeal tubercle, a median pharyngeal raphe, which is the decussation of the right and left constrictor muscle, is continuous with the esophagus posteriorly or on the dorsal surface. So this is called posterior pharyngeal raphe. So raphe means when right and left meet together or decussate, as we have done in the mylohyoid muscle. Same is here, as in the papilionati, in the botany also you have done the pea. So where when we open the legume of the pea, where the peas they are studded, that line is called median raphe. Same is here, median pharyngeal raphe is there, when right and left meet. So this is a fan shaped muscle and the upper border goes to the pharyngeal tubercle. The lowermost fibers, they go and form the pharyngeal raphe. At which level? At the level of vocal cords. So that is the extent of the superior constrictor muscle. So the fibers, they decussate, they go to the pharyngeal. A few fibers only insert on the bone, that is pharyngeal tubercle. The rest of the fibers, they decussate from right to left, and the fibers, the lower fibers, they are obliquely running downward and they go down up to the pharyngeal, the vocal cords. So this is how we do the. So if we broke this 3 flower pots, anterior part is broken. Now this is what we have made, a tube. Anteriorly it is open. And this cut end is the origin of the superior constrictor, this is the origin of middle, this is the origin of inferior. So from the origin, the muscle fibers, they go laterally and posteriorly. Uppermost fibers, they got access to the pharyngeal tubercle. The subsequent fibers, what they will do? Posteriorly, the right and left, they will meet. And what they construct dorsally? Median pharyngeal raphe. Is it clear? So this is how we, from the broken part of the flower pots, we can see how the median pharyngeal raphe is formed by decussation of right and left meeting on the posterior side. So after making these 3 muscle, 3 constrictor, now take this, and that is, you have made the pharynx. And after putting this, so this is how 3 flower pots are there. We have constructed it. Now we fit these points like this. Is it clear? So this pharynx by the 3 flower pots, 1, 2 and 3, we have made by the muscles constrictor, and we have fitted here, from here to here. So this is how it is built. This is the posterior side, median raphe. This is the origin of the muscle anterior. So this is how you have to exemplify and easy to understand the complex part of the pharynx formation. Then come now there is a gap below the base of the skull and the superior border of the superior constrictor. Now the air will be leaked from here if it has not been closed, or the food may come here. That is called the nasal regurgitation. Sometimes when we take the food, sometimes it comes into our nose, liquid also. When we are in a hurry, then the soft palate doesn't work and it leads to the. So it may happen, or due to the injury to the glossopharyngeal nerve is damaged, then it leads to the nasal regurgitation of the food. So this gap has to be closed, and this gap is closed by a membrane. A fascia is called pharyngo-basilar fascia. Pharynx and basilar means base of the skull. So this fascia is called pharyngo-basilar fascia. And remember, this pharyngo-basilar fascia is pierced by 4 structures. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Number 1, Eustachian tube. Number 2, levator palatine muscle. Levator palatine muscle. Then number 3, palatine branch of the facial artery. 4th is the palatine branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. So that you have to remember what 4 structures piercing this 2 arteries, 1 Eustachian tube and 1 muscle, that is the levator palatine. Then comes the middle constrictor. So middle constrictor is also fan shape. The origin of the middle constrictor is, number 1, to the lesser cornu, what is attached? Stylohyoid ligament. So this muscle taken from the lower half of the stylohyoid ligament. Number 2, origin from the greater cornu of the hyoid bone. So this is the origin of the what is called the middle constrictor. Then these fibers, the uppermost fiber of the middle constrictor, they are also fan shaped. They reach up to the pharyngeal tubercle insertion. They overlap superior and the middle. The rest of the subsequent muscle they form inside on the median pharyngeal raphe. Lower fibers, they are again fan shaped. And where they are inserted, they form a conjoint tendon with the lowermost fibers of superior constrictor. And they are inserted on the median pharyngeal raphe at the level of vocal cords. So that is the middle constrictor muscle. Again fan shape. Then comes the inferior constrictor. Inferior constrictor has got 2 parts. One taken origin from the The thyropharyngeus part takes origin from the oblique line on the thyroid cartilage. And these muscles, they are also small fan-shaped muscles. They decussate with the muscles. The lower fibers, they are almost horizontal. The thyropharyngeus part. From the cricoid cartilage, from the anterior arc, takes the muscle origin, that is called the cricopharyngeus. They are almost horizontal fibers. They do not go to insert on the median pharyngeal raphe, but the right and left muscles of the cricopharyngeus part of the inferior constrictor, they meet together and they encircle over the upper end of esophagus. And they are continuous with the inner circular smooth muscles of the esophagus. So this cricopharyngeus is the lowermost part of the laryngopharynx or the whole pharynx. This is the narrowest part of the GIT. If we see the width of this, the width is only 1.5 centimeter. Only 1.5 centimeter. See, our food has to pass through this 1.5 centimeter diameter. So this is the reason when we take hurriedly the food is obstructed here and sometimes we got vomited. Because here only the well chewed food has to pass through the 1.5 centimeter width. This is the reason why our parents and the grandparents say that food has to be taken very smoothly and with the calmness, not hurriedly, and we have to chew the food how many times? How many times? 32 times. Why the God has given the 32 teeth? Not 28, not 27, not 25. 32 means one bolus of the food has to chew for 32 times. The person won't be having any GIT problem in throughout the life. If that much time is consumed on the food chewing. 32 teeth and 32 times. The food will go now into the 1.5 centimeter very easily. You have not to take any coke or any liquid to drop it down. It will give soothing effect to the GIT. The muscles, they won't contract because it will automatically slip. And when the stomach, it reaches the stomach, where the food remains for 3 to 4 hours. That is called gastric emptying time. Physiology people might have told. Whatever food you take, liquid or solid, remains in your stomach for how many hours? 3 to 4 hours. And what is happening in the 3 to 4 hours? The solid and semi-solid food is converted into, when it leaves the pylorus, the food is converted into a paste, toothpaste like. That is called chyme. That is the function of stomach. It has got a strong HCl. It liquefy everything. So that is, you know what is the GIT, and you are the doctor, you have to become doctor, what you have to explain to your patients. So how to chew feed, how many times you have to chew, if you are not doing yourself. How you can teach the medical education to the patients. So these are the small things, but we are very valuable in the life. So this is a very notorious area of the pharynx. So this is superior. So whenever the food bolus comes into the mouth, so all these muscles, they are skeletal muscles. They are contracted by reflex action, that is the touching of the food bolus will make the contraction. They are not smooth muscles. So for example, when the food reaches here, what will happen? Whenever the food start entering, we start the chewing. The entry of the nasopharynx and the oropharynx is closed. Here what happens, the uvula becomes straight as we start taking food. Uvula is hanging, now it becomes straight. Now there is a muscle which is called the palatopharyngeus, which is taking origin from palatine aponeurosis. So this palatopharyngeus, like cricopharyngeus, goes posteriorly and encircle it, the nasopharyngeal opening. And Other fibers of nasopharynx, palatopharyngeus goes with the inserted on the lamina of the thyroid cartilage. The horizontal fibers, they encircle around the isthmus where the nasopharynx meet with the oropharynx. They call the nasopharyngeal isthmus. They contract, and internally whole of this pharynx is lined by the mucous membrane. In the nasopharynx, it is ciliated columnar. Rest of here, it is the wear and tear, non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. So, these horizontal fibers of the palatopharyngeus muscle is covered by internally mucosa, and that mucosa is raised because of this muscle is called the Passavant's ridge. This is called the Passavant's ridge. So whenever we start taking food inside the mouth, this muscle contracts and uvula fit into it. Now no food can go into the nasopharynx. So that is the mechanism. Then food will come here. It touches the middle and the superior constrictor muscle. So this muscle reflexly contract. The next muscle, this part is relaxed. So food will go down. When it touches here, this will contract, it will relax. So food will go down. When it reaches here, now there is a muscular incoordination. While thyropharyngeus is contracting, cricopharyngeus is not contracting, it is also contracting, not relaxing. The food is obstructed for a while, for a pause here. And it takes some time to slip it down when we take the food hurriedly. If it is well chewed, there is nothing to do, it slips automatically. Through 1.5 centimeter is not problem for the paste to go or liquid to go. The solid food is obstructed here. Plus the mucous membrane between these two gap between the crico and the thyropharyngeus part. So this is the superior constrictor, the middle constrictor, the inferior constrictor, and this is the thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. So mucous membrane which is covering inside may come out through this gap because of the different nerve supply. And this gap between the thyroid and the cricopharyngeus is called the Killian's dehiscence. Killian's dehiscence. Splitting. Dehiscence means splitting. And there is small diverticula or pouch is formed. This is called the pharyngeal diverticulum. And sometimes this diverticulum may be enlarged in some people. And if it goes downward from here, it may press the esophagus from outside, and there is a dysphagia is there if it is enlarged, big, and go gravity downward. So that is the Killian. Muscular incoordination is also there, and the nerve supply is also different. Cricopharyngeus is supplied by a recurrent laryngeal nerve which is very near, while the rest of the constrictor muscles, superior and the longitudinal circular, they are supplied by the. So next part is the nerve supply. So nerve supply is the pharyngeal plexus. So pharyngeal plexus has got motor fibers, sensory fibers, and sympathetic fibers. Motor fibers are the coming from the 11th nerve. So all the muscles, the stylopharyngeus, palatopharyngeus, and the salpingopharyngeus, they are all supplied by the pharyngeal plexus via the cranial part of 11th nerve, except stylopharyngeus. Because stylopharyngeus muscle is accompanied by the glossopharyngeal nerve. Then there is also a gap between the lower border of the superior constrictor and upper border of the middle constrictor. So this is a gap, as it is this gap. Superior and the middle constrictor, what structure they pass? You have to remember, between superior and middle constrictor, they are obliquely fibers. What passes? Number one, glossopharyngeal nerve. because glossopharyngeal nerves has to supply posterior 1/3 of the tongue. So it has to go inside. And it is also the same area where the stylopharyngeus muscle also go inside the pharynx to insert on the lamina of the third cartilage. So two things you have to remember: ninth nerve and the stylopharyngeus muscle between superior and the middle. Then there is also a gap between the superior and the inferior constrictor. This gap, superior middle constrictor and inferior constrictor. And what passes through this? So this membrane is thyroid membrane. Same structure which pierces the thyroid membrane, passing through this, and then they pierce the thyroid membrane. Superior laryngeal artery and the superior laryngeal vein, then internal laryngeal nerve. They pass through this gap. Because internal laryngeal, we have seen that there is a branch of superior constrictor and superior laryngeal nerve. And this is the vagus nerve, laterally going to the pharynx, because lateral part of the pharynx is related to the carotid sheaths, and vagus nerve lies here. So vagus nerve will give the superior laryngeal nerve, which divide into internal and external. So then there is a gap between the inferior constrictor and the esophagus. What passes through this? All structure in the tracheoesophageal group, that is recurrent laryngeal nerve and inferior laryngeal artery and the vein. So that you have to remember the gap what passes through them. Now ninth nerve is there, 10th is there, and 11th is also there. Accessory nerve, all three coming from the jugular foramen, middle part. And all these three nerves, they are attached in the medulla. There is a nucleus common to these three nerves, 9th, 10th and 11th, that is called nucleus ambiguous. Nucleus ambiguous. So this nucleus ambiguous is common to, this is a motor nucleus to the 9th, 10th and 11th nerve. And whenever anybody say what is nucleus ambiguous, what is your answer? That it is attached to motor nucleus to the 9th, 10th and 11th nerve, and they supply three muscles, three nerves, three muscles: palatal, laryngeal and pharyngeal muscles. Muscles of the palate, soft palate, muscles of the larynx they supply, and muscles of the pharynx they supply. So this is how the function of nucleus ambiguous situated in the medulla is connected to this. So this is how we have to do. So the 9th, 10th and 11th nerve is there. So on the middle constrictor muscle, this. So outside these muscles, they are present inside the mucosa and submucosa. Outside all these pharyngeal muscles, they are covered by the pharyngobasilar fascia in the upper part, and in the lower part is the buccopharyngeal fascia. Same fascia which we have done covering the buccinator muscle. So outside covering is there. That is in the upper part, there is a pharyngobasilar fascia, and below it is overlapped by the buccopharyngeal fascia. Internally the mucosa and submucosa. So this is the coronal section of the, or sagittal section of this part. So pharyngeal plexus, which has to supply all the six muscles except palatopharyngeus, the stylopharyngeus is formed on the external surface of the on the buccopharyngeal fascia on the middle constrictor. So here we know the glossopharyngeal. Ninth is called glossopharyngeal. It supplies, glosso means tongue, posterior 1/3, and pharyngeal means it gives a branch, pharyngeal branch. The vagus nerve also gives a pharyngeal branch. The accessory nerve also gives a pharyngeal branch. The sympathetic chain is also lying over here, superior cervical ganglion, middle and inferior ganglion. The superior cervical ganglion, it also gives a sympathetic branch or a pharyngeal branch. So all these branches, they carry these fibers. Sympathetic fibers come from superior cervical ganglion. Sensory branches are coming from the 9th nerve, or motor coming from the 11th and 10th. So all are mixed on the buccopharyngeal fascia, where on the middle constrictor muscle. Once this plexus is formed, which is called pharyngeal plexus. Now this pharyngeal plexus will give the various branches, and these branches will go up and down and supply all the muscles. But this plexus branches, they finish when they reach the inferior constrictor. That's why it has got a different nerve supply. Sometimes it is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve, which supply the cricothyroid muscle. Recurrent laryngeal nerve, it is supplied. So it has got a different nerve supply. That's why it doesn't match with the other muscles of the pharynx. So this is how we do the pharyngeal part of this. Nerve is near here, recurrent laryngeal nerve, and sometime the external laryngeal nerve is supplied the cricothyroid muscle is very near. So sometime a branch of external laryngeal nerve also supplies the cricopharyngeus. So there is a nervous incoordination at the lower end of the pharynx, and because of this incoordination, the problem starts. Now this gap between the cricopharyngeus part is the narrowest part of the GIT. We know we take the food here, and food has to pass down in the esophagus. So when we start chewing the food, the opening of nasopharynx is the oropharynx. This is called the nasopharyngeal isthmus, is closed by the prominence of the passavant ridge due to underlying contraction of the palatopharyngeus muscle contracts, and uvula becomes straight, and uvula fit in the gap of the palatopharyngeus. Hence, no even a drop of the water can go from the oral cavity into nasal cavity. So that mechanism is done here at the passavant ridge. But due to the damage to the 9th, 10th or 11th nerve, the food may enter into the nasal cavity from oral cavity, and this condition is called nasal regurgitation. Nasal regurgitation, or when sometimes we are in a hurry and we are taking food hurriedly, rapidly, then food also accidentally goes into our nose sometime, or liquid may go. So that is how the mechanism is there. Now this constrictor part of the GIT, if you measure by the scale, the diameter is only 1.5 centimeter. It is 1.5 centimeter. So food has to pass through this into the esophagus. So whenever the food goes from the oral cavity, this is closed here, and when food touches the constrictor muscle, reflexly these skeletal muscles, they contract, and the next muscle is relaxing already. So the contraction of these constrictor muscle will push the food with the downward. When it touches this muscle contracts, next is relax. So food comes like this. So this is called the process of deglutition. Detail the physiology people will tell you the process of deglutition. But when this food reaches here at the narrow part, what happens? There is some muscular incoordination. Due to difference in the nerve supply, food is obstructed for a pause or for a small time. So this is why when we take hurriedly the food, our food is obstructed here, and we sometimes got choking or vomiting may be there. So that's why our parents and the grandparents say that don't eat the food hurriedly. Sit properly, give time for eating. Then you won't be having any GIT disease. So food has to be chewed very thoroughly. How many times a food bolus can be? How many times? 32 times, because there are 32 teeth. So 32 times when you chew the food, this food will be converted into a paste. The same paste which is the functioning of the stomach. The food remains in the stomach for how many hours? 3 to 4 hours. What is this called? Gastric emptying time. When we start taking food, our pylorus closes. And what is the stomach? It is the mixie. It is mixie of the GIT. So food here is churning, and after 3 and 4 hours, whole of the food, the veg, non-veg, hard, solid or non-solid, liquid, everything will be converted into a paste. That is called the chyme. So when paste or chyme is formed, then the pylorus start opening very slightly, and first jet of the acidic chyme will fall on the posterior wall of the duodenum, first part of duodenum. So this is the mechanism here. So this is how we do these 6 constrictor muscles: origin, insertion, action. Now come their nerve supply. Nerve supply of these muscles is by pharyngeal plexus. Pharyngeal plexus. And like tongue nerve supply, like the definition of the larynx, here is also a definition. All the muscles of the pharynx are supplied by pharyngeal plexus except stylopharyngeus, which is supplied by ninth or the glossopharynx. The same for 3 things: larynx, tongue and the pharynx. You have to remember the definition like the physics. Except word comes. So pharyngeal plexus is formed on the buccopharyngeal fascia on the middle constrictor muscle, somewhere here. On the fascia outside, and it is formed having motor fibers. It has got sensory fibers which supply the mucous membrane lining the inner wall of the bone. It has got sympathetic fibers. Sympathetic fibers, they are vasomotor. They supply the tunica media of the blood vessels supplying the pharynx. So motor fibers, they are derived from the 9th, 10th and 11th nerve. We already know from the jugular foramen, 9th nerve is coming. Its name is glossopharyngeal. So after giving the glossal or the tongue branch, it gives the pharyngeal branch and contribute in the pharyngeal plexus. Then comes the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve. It gives the superior laryngeal nerve branch, and it also gives a pharyngeal branch also. It contributes. Then 11th accessory nerve is also going. It also gives a pharyngeal branch. So accessory nerve is the cranial part of accessory nerve from the pharyngeal plexus. Then we know the sympathetic chain is also lying in the deep part of the anterior triangle with superior, inferior and middle cervical ganglion. So sympathetic fibers, they come from the superior cervical ganglion. Sensory fibers, they come from the glossopharyngeal nerve. And all these nerves, they are connected to nucleus ambiguus. Nucleus ambiguus is situated in the medulla, from where these 9th, 10th and 11th nerve are arising. So always remember, whenever the word nucleus ambiguus comes, it means this nucleus is a motor nucleus for 9th, 10th and 11th nerves. Means through this nucleus ambiguus is made for muscles of larynx, pharynx and soft palate. That we have to remember. It supplies palatal muscles, pharyngeal muscles and laryngeal muscles. One nucleus, 3 nerves, 9th, 10th and 11th. So this is how the motor supply to these areas they go. Then the mandibular branch is also sensory to it comes to the pterygopalatine ganglion. So pterygopalatine ganglion also has got the pharyngeal branches. It has got orbital branches, palatal branches, pharyngeal branches and nasal branches. You have done the pterygopalatine ganglion. So pharyngeal branches are come from the pharynx. So this is how this plexus is formed. Once this plexus is formed, the branches from here it goes up and down and supply all the constrictor muscle, but they are failed to reach the cricopharyngeus. That's why the cricopharyngeus has got sometimes dual nerve supply, may or may not from the pharyngeal plexus, but from the recurrent and the external laryngeal nerve is the must. So this is how we do. Now this muscular incoordination also causes the mucous membrane to come out through this gap between the thyropharyngeus and cricopharyngeus. So when this mucous membrane comes out, it forms a diverticulum. That is called the pharyngeal diverticulum. Sometimes this pharyngeal diverticulum, the food is accumulated and that food may press. So this is the pharyngeal, is a bulb-like structure may come out of mucous membrane from this gap of the thyroid and pharyngeal pharynges, and food may come here and food may accumulated here, and when the food is accumulated it will press the esophagus from the outside and it may lead to the dysphagia. So this is the applied anatomy related to the pharynx. So this is how we do the pharynx, the last part of the head and neck. Thank you.